Streaming live, this is NewsNation Now.
Happy holidays and a good Wednesday morning to you. I am Aaron Nolan. Thank you so much for joining us here on NewsNation Now. If you're joining us from around the country and haven't heard about NewsNation, I encourage you to go to newsnationnow.com and check out where you can watch us. We're a new national newscast that is right down the middle. We're not going to tell you how to think about any story, including the story we're focusing on today. We're talking about the city that never sleeps. No, not New York City, Washington, D.C. Kellie Meyer joins us now to talk about everything that is going on in the nation's capital. And Kellie, we were talking a little bit off camera. You're worried about next week being a busy week because a lot of people will have time off. Hey, this week has been a very busy week in Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. Right up until the last very second. And we actually don't know if they might return now after what happened last night on Twitter and Facebook with President Trump launching this video and saying that he wants a bigger direct payment than Congress had decided on. So we know that we've been talking for weeks about that COVID relief deal. Senate and House members finally came to an agreement and decided on the relief plan, which included a $600 direct payment. And the president came out last night and says he wants it to be $2,000. Immediately, it got feedback from other members of Congress on Twitter. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said, yeah, sure, let's do bigger. And she wants the House to vote on that even as soon as today. And then that punts it to the Senate, where you have Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. What will he say? Generally, they haven't been for a bigger amount. They don't want to, keep raising the amount of this now $900 billion relief package. But you are hearing from some other Republicans, like South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, saying that he is for the $2,000 direct payment. So this really put Congress in a tizzy at the very last second, right before Christmas Eve.
Is it possible? We've been talking about the stimulus and whether it was going to pass a second stimulus since the CARES Act in March. Is it possible for the leadership of Congress to agree on $600 to Americans and then the president come in and ask for much, much more per check? Can this actually happen?
It really can. And I've been talking with some sources this morning, and they are moving on it. Like I said, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signaling that they'll bring this to the floor for a vote. And then the Senate will have to maybe potentially come back and vote on this. I'm going to be talking with some of the sources here after this to kind of find out what this will look like, because everybody just left. It's Christmas Eve tomorrow for those that are celebrating. It really throws this whole situation off. And then on top of it, you have programs that are expiring the day after Christmas, like the unemployment benefits expire December 26th if the president doesn't sign the current package he has in his hands. So there's a lot of questions. And then the president himself is set to leave for Mar-a-Lago at 4 p.m. Eastern tonight to leave and head home to Florida for the Christmas holiday. So there's a lot of questions of what could happen next. And I would just say keep an eye on Washington, as we always do, because this could change in a matter of hours.
Kellie, a lot of people are watching on Facebook Live right now. I think a lot of people are concerned about the stimulus check. They're concerned about getting some kind of relief from what has been such a long year since March, when a pandemic was declared across not just the United States, but across the world. And I want to encourage anyone who is watching on Facebook right now, NewsNation or any other station across the country, you can ask questions. We'll relay those to Kellie. Kellie, what would this do if we increase these checks from $600 to $2,000? What would it do for the overall package? Would it increase the $900 billion, or is this going to be kind of a stealing from Peter and giving to Paul situation?
The fine details have to still be nailed out, but I would imagine it would increase the overall package number if they go to a payment of $2,000. But of course, I'm sure for people watching, that's an amount. I mean, I'm sure they could even use more than that. So I'm sure there's a lot of people, like you said, that are in need right now. That $600 direct payment to many people was a joke, and that would maybe afford some groceries that you have to get through and not really help you out with any kind of bills you have or rent or anything like that. So the more money, the better for people who are struggling right now. And it's something that I believe President-elect Joe Biden recognized in his holiday address on Tuesday, saying that it was this bill that Congress agreed on was just a jumping off point. It was only the beginning, and they plan to do more direct checks to come in 2021.
What did President-elect Biden say about President Trump's his desire to increase this by $1,400?
I was checking Twitter last night to see if President-elect Biden had a response to what Trump had said last night. And I didn't see just yet. I haven't seen, I don't think, any sort of response to that. I'm sure he
Okay.
would be on board with it because all along he has said that he wants to give more to the American people. But it's just interesting how the timing of all of this is going to work out. Like I said, with Congress coming back, with people breaking for the holiday, with the president leaving, how this is exactly going to work. There's a lot of things that are tied to these deadlines that are coming up. It really has, I think, Washington today in a tizzy.
As we talk about this, a lot of people are going to have hope. And again, we're in a year unlike many other, and a lot of people need help. Small businesses need help. We're talking about that $600, and Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, did say that that amount he could get out relatively quickly. If we're in a stall pattern, does that mean that the $600 that was agreed upon will now be stalled, waiting for more politicians to get back to Washington to possibly vote on what the president is now saying needs to be $2,000 per check per American?
Yeah, and that's a great point because nothing can happen until the president signs this bill. And that's when it becomes law. And right now, he hasn't signed it. And he may not if he doesn't get the $2,000 direct payment that he wants. It really is all in his hands. And he's holding on to this power. He's almost out of office in the next couple weeks. But this is something that he has control of still and can very much set off a delay in these direct payments going out. So it could be people waiting for these $600 direct checks, for however long it takes to get this decided. And in the end, they may not get the 2,000 if it's not agreed to. So then that just puts a longer delay on just waiting for the same $600 check. There's so many open-ended questions here, but it all comes down to whether President Trump signs this, and he has not signed it yet.
Real quick, we want to go to Facebook right now, and if you're joining us all across the country, I am Aaron Nolan, joined by Kellie Meyer, who's live in Washington, D.C., breaking down stimulus talks. Of course, Congress has agreed on a $600 stimulus to Americans. The president coming out yesterday saying he believes that number should be $2,000, so we're kind of, again, in a holding pattern. We're on NewsNationNow.com, and if you don't know about us at NewsNation, I encourage you to go to our website. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. I want to go to Facebook very quickly. Janine Seymour said that she emailed her congressmen and representatives last night. When you spoke with congressmen and representatives from around the country, every state in the union, what are they saying? Is that the right play for some of these people to just email and say, yes, we need more money, we need more help, this is why?
Oh, yeah. I think for people watching at home, I think email or call or text or reach out to your congressional offices from the House to the Senate. I think that really does make an impact. Every time I walk into a senator's office to wait for my interviews with them, I'm sitting in the room where the people in the front take the phone calls and write down the messages and listen to what you're saying. And the phones are always off the hook, especially right now during the pandemic. So they are taking your calls, they are listening, and that's when change happens, is when people call and speak up and say this is what they need. And if there's enough pushback, this is why this bill passed this week, I'm sure, is the pushback that people have had coming into Congress from these past couple months and saying, we need help. Our programs are expiring. We can't get through this. And both sides are getting it, Democrats and Republicans. And that's when they listen.
What else is in this bill? There's a lot of talk on social media right now about other things. It's not just a stimulus bill that was agreed upon Sunday by leadership, voted on earlier this week. What else is in this larger bill?
Well, it's going to be help for those that are unemployed right now. It looks like a $300 a week unemployment insurance payment. There's also help for small businesses in there. There's help for vaccine distribution, which, with this also being delayed, kind of puts a backlog on what's happening as we roll out with these Pfizer and Moderna doses that people are beginning to receive. Will this impact the rollout of trying to get these vaccines out to different people, to essential workers, to healthcare workers? So there's a lot of things that can be impacted from this COVID relief bill. And also, not to mention, this is tied to government funding. So if the president also doesn't sign this, then there could be a potential shutdown on our hands. And if he does sign it, then the funding will continue on into next fall. But there's so many things left open ended. I can't say it enough. There's definitely many things in this bill that can help people, from small business to those unemployed, to people looking for the vaccine. But again, none of that can happen until the president signs it and until they come to some sort of agreement with these $2,000 direct payments. So as you see, it all kind of ties together.
What are the chances that the president would veto or sign this if the $2,000 number isn't reached and it stays at 600? Is that on the table from the White House?
I believe it is. And that's, we can never predict what President Trump might do, but he has definitely threatened that. And, if he doesn't get his way, he very much can do whatever he may like. He holds the cards at this point, and the ball is definitely in his court. And he's able to, play this how he wants to. So we'll wait and see what he will decide ultimately. If he doesn't get his way, he very well could say, I'm going to hang on to this until you guys come together and give me that $2,000 number, or he could let it go. So we'll be watching and see what he decides.
Kellie Meyer joins us now live from Washington, D.C. here on NewsNation Now and the NewsNation Facebook page. I encourage you to check out our website, newsnationnow.com, and join us on WGN America. If you don't know how to get that channel, you can click on the very right-hand corner, put in your zip code. We'll tell you exactly how to get WGN America, but we're a brand new national newscast starting at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central, 7 days a week. All right, so a little business I had to get out of the way there. Kellie, I want to get back into this bill a little bit because a lot of people are talking about foreign aid. How much do we know about foreign aid that is included in this stimulus package? And it is something that is clearly, if we look at the information that's on Facebook, the people responding on Facebook, it's something that Americans are concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, and this, I have to look into how much aid is in there for the foreign government, but I will say this is I think it was a over 5,000 page package between, I think they were calling it the Corona bus, or COVID bus, saying that it was COVID relief on top of the spending deal. So there's so much little facts and figures inside this that I don't think many of us on Capitol Hill have like a moment to dig into every bit of it. But I will say, yeah, I definitely have seen some reports of that and seen the concern from people there. So there's definitely much to look into with this bill. And that's an important point to say that if we haven't had a chance to go through with a fine-tooth comb, how can members of Congress that are voting on it have had the chance to go through something like this within a matter of hours? And that was a concern I heard from many Republicans I talked to last week.
Talking with Kellie Meyer from Washington, D.C. about the possibility of the stimulus relief bill increasing from a $600 payment to Americans to a $2,000 payment to Americans. It was suggested yesterday by President Trump. Kellie, I want to switch gears a little bit now, talk about what you're working on for a story today for our stations all across the country. And it's something that's quite interesting as we look at this because we keep thinking that the election is over, but Congress still has to count the votes, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And then you've told me that the possibility is there that the GOP congresspeople will actually maybe not vote on some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That is 2 weeks from today. So on January 6th, Congress counts the ballots sent over to them from the Electoral College. And how it will work is if one member from the House and one member from the Senate object to these ballots, to these votes, then both chambers will have to adjourn and talk about it and consider their objections. But the thing is, I just got off the phone with a constitutional expert, so we reviewed this process and how it would work. And basically, it comes down to more of a loyalty test for President Trump supporters, because at the end of the day, this won't change the result of the election, because at the end of the day, the House is in the majority, the Democratic majority, so nothing that they object to will actually go through and be passed. So the end result is still the same. President-elect Joe Biden will still be the president. He will still get inaugurated on January 20th. So all this comes down to is a bit of back and forth, a bit of stalling, and a bit of a test from President Trump's most staunch supporters in Congress. You're seeing people like Matt Gaetz. I talked to Georgia Congressman Jody Hice, to South Carolina Congressman Ralph Norman. Many of his House Republican friends stopped by the White House on Monday and said they would be objecting to this. But it's interesting, and something that the constitutional expert said was that the Senate majority, Republicans in the Senate majority, are saying, let's not challenge this, because then that has to put them in a sticky situation where they have to go on the record and say yes or no. And many of them have already accepted the results after the Electoral College voted a few weeks back and congratulated President-elect Biden. So they are already on the record saying that Biden won, and they're trying to move forward. So you've heard McConnell, you've heard John Thune say that this is done. Let's not bring this up, because if they do, that really puts them in a tough situation with the president. And then on top of that, Vice President Mike Pence is the one presiding over all of this, and he's going to have to be the one to pretty much seal the deal on this election that it's over, that President-elect Joe Biden won, and his President Trump, has finished his term in the White House.
Kellie, my mind just exploded. You're taking us to school here, the different layers that the election process goes through, that many years, every 4 years, of course, we vote. We don't really recognize what happens there. So very interesting stuff. Much more on that coming up tonight on News Nation. Kellie, before you go, we do need to talk about the vaccine. We have seen politicians getting the vaccine. President-elect Biden getting that vaccine yesterday. We've seen Fauci get the vaccine. We know that Mike Pence has got the vaccine. How are people in Washington handling the news of now 2 vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, now being able to go to healthcare workers and frontline workers, as well as the next wave of elderly people being able to get this vaccine? How is the feeling right now that there is a light at the end of the tunnel to this pandemic?
It's definitely a feeling of hope, and you have probably seen, and many of the people watching or listening have seen, many of the members of Congress getting this. They were saying it as a member of the government, that for continuance of government, all of them are beginning to get it. You saw from Florida Senator Marco Rubio to South Carolina Senator Tim Scott to Jim Clyburn. All of them are starting to get this vaccine. They're taking the photo and showing them getting it, to show both that it is safe to get, that they are getting it, they are encouraging their constituents to get it, and also to show that we are maybe turning the page, hopefully, on this pandemic and moving forward. And you even heard from President-elect Biden congratulating the efforts of the Trump administration and Operation Warp Speed for getting this off the ground and getting them to where they are at now. We saw the other dose of Moderna begin to go out as well. So they are feeling very hopeful up here, and they are beginning to get it as well. So I think that it's definitely things looking up as we head into 2021, but there's still much work to be done. As we say, there's so many people still struggling in the interim until this pandemic is defeated.
Without a doubt. Kellie Meyer, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us from Washington, D.C. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
All right, Kellie Meyer reporting for us. She is here each and every week, and we just sat around and chat about the things that are impacting Americans there in Washington, because they are there. And the big news today, as we heard from President Trump yesterday, saying that stimulus check needs to increase to Americans. $600 is what congressional leaders settled on. Now the president wants $1,400 more, $2,000 to go to Americans. A lot of working pieces, a lot of things happening, but here we are, December 23rd. It's the holiday break, not only for us at home, not only for us here in the newsroom, but also for politicians. So a lot of things going to happen there. The president still has to sign this bill. And Kellie telling us not sure if he's going to sign it at the $600 or maybe wait for congressional leaders to vote on the possible $2,000. A lot of things happening in Washington, a lot of things happening in our newsroom, and we encourage you to join the team at News Nation. Watch us each and every night, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock Central on WGN America. I want to remind you one more time, if you don't know how to get WGN America, go to newsnationnow.com. On the upper right-hand corner, there's a search bar. It says zip code. Put your zip code there. We'll do the heavy lifting. We'll tell you how to watch us. And you can also always follow us on social media. It is News Nation Now. I am Aaron Nolan. Have a fantastic holiday. Until next year, goodbye. See you guys.